Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my viewers around the country, Leyland in Idaho, thank you so very much for tuning in. Christine in Pennsylvania, thanks everybody. And around the world, Paul in Australia, thank you so very much. Everyone around the world in the U.S., thank you so much. I do believe that President Trump has essentially set the foundation or laid the groundwork to indict a number of people, possibly people on the January committee. I think the tariffs, I think that the battle with lower courts, a lot of the things President Trump is doing, and hit subscribe, you'll hear from President Trump in a second. I think a lot of the things he's doing is setting the stage and the groundwork for the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and others to indict a great many people who were pardoned. The preemptive pardons are very likely not constitutional. Biden likely didn't know what he was doing. That's one issue. The other issue is that there was no preemptive pardon in American history similar to what happened with Cheney and Schiff and others. We'll get to that in a second. So this was a preemptive pardon that has never taken place ever. In a couple of seconds, you'll hear from Longshot Louie, hello. Forever Red, hello. You will hear from President Trump, but I want to just read you this. This is very important. You have tariffs. You have the Department of Justice enforcing existing immigration laws, going to battle with lower courts. The lower courts, the same lower courts that, by the way, the Supreme Court will eventually, in terms of political power, upend. So President Trump is going to battle with the lower courts before he potentially indicts a lot of these people. Chairman Loudermilk releases second report. In this report, he accuses Liz Cheney of, number 6, the January committee neglected or withheld evidence from its final report and deleted voluminous records it should have preserved. This is part of a congressional report from Congressman Loudermilk in Georgia. I am reading you the summary of potential indictments. Now, this is huge, ladies and gentlemen, and I think that you just listen to President Trump right here, and then we can talk about the pardons. There's a reason that people were pardoned. He's going to explain that right now.
I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option. And the lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty. And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees, but it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped. I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped. It's all been discredited. It's been dropped. There are those people that say, and this would be the first time in history, that all of those fake indictments, they were going after a political opponent. There are those that say that I actually did better in the election because of it. Now, that would be a first. I think you would agree, because normally that's like you go back to the microphones, you say, I'm leaving right now. I will leave office. I'm going back to my family and I will fight for my name. Well, I had to fight for my name in public because I didn't leave office. But no, I didn't want to pardon, and I didn't want to pardon myself. I had the option to pardon myself.
And you don't want one now? You're not going to pardon yourself now?
What do I need one for? First of all, I've won almost all of the cases.
What if President Biden...
And the ones that I didn't win are on resuscitation.
What if President Biden offered you a pardon? Would you accept it?
I've never even thought about it. I don't think he'll do it. Look, if he did, he's the one that started this whole thing. He got the Justice Department to go after me. And the state cases are all being run by the Justice Department, which is illegal. They had their people from the Justice Department work for Alvin Bragg in order to get something going. They worked for Letitia James in the state. He had his people go from the federal government and take lesser jobs in the state in order to get Donald
And you know
Trump.
he denies he had anything to do with it.
No,
and
you
there's
can't deny it. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they were there. Wait a minute. Wait. You have a tendency to sort of like slough over things.
President Trump is now going to talk about exactly the issues presented in Chairman Loudermilk's report, which could be used as the basis for the indictment. I do believe, based on reports, they are planning within the next year and a half to indict a number of people who were pardoned, people like Cheney, others who potentially committed crimes, potentially leaked information. And right now, with the deportations, with the string of Supreme Court victories, President Trump is going to test the preemptive pardon to see whether it's constitutional or not. And a preemptive pardon in the manner that Biden issued them is not constitutional. Cheney is accused of witness tampering here with Cassidy Hutchinson. Should be investigated for potential witness tampering, potentially deleting voluminous records. And by the way, there's no evidence right now that I know of that the Justice Department has that categorically states that Cheney or Schiff or anyone committed any crimes. There's no evidence that, for example, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and others have presented that states Cheney and others have committed crimes. There is evidence, according to Chairman Loudermilk. That's, I think, the basis for a lot of what's going to take place. This is, when you hear President Trump, he's talking about Congressman Loudermilk's report. That should be talked about. That should be front and center in American politics. And I do believe it will be in a couple of months, within a year.
Things. You just made a statement. His person, the top, maybe the third or second or third person, left the federal government, the DOJ, and went to work for Letitia James. And then, after they got that one started, went to work for the DA.
Let me ask you about some of this new reporting. NBC News is reporting that President Biden is considering giving preemptive pardons to the likes of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. If President Biden doesn't issue those pardons, do you think they are going to wish that he had? Are they going to be pursued?
I can tell you this about Cheney, and she's a so-called Republican. I think she hurt the Democrats terribly. When I saw that Kamala put Cheney out on the campaign trail, I said, that's the end of Kamala. I really did. I thought it was a terrible move, especially if you're a Democrat. But Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. So the Unselect Committee went through a year and a half of testimony. Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence of that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. Testimony.
Now this is, you can hear this again, but this is the basis of Congressman Loudermilk's report. This was a comprehensive congressional investigation, and the report was issued December of 2024, okay, after President Trump won. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. You can read the report. It's online, but it's Committee on House Administration. Okay, so press release, Chairman Loudermilk releases 2nd January 2021 report, December 17, 2024. Former Representative Liz Cheney colluded with star witness Cassidy Hutchinson without Hutchinson's attorney's knowledge. Number 2, this is according to the report, former Representative Liz Cheney should be investigated for potential criminal witness tampering based on new information about her communication. Number 3, Cassidy Hutchinson's most outrageous claims lack any evidence. Number 4, Representative Liz Cheney used the January committee as a tool to attack President Trump. Number 5 and 6. The January committee was improperly constituted, lacked authority. The January committee neglected or withheld evidence from its final report and deleted voluminous records. That's a felony, federal crime. Very important. You can't delete government records. Ask Madam Secretary that when her first 3 months of emails, according to the Honorable James Comey, are nowhere to be found. And according to the Honorable James Comey, 30,000 emails, half of all the emails were deleted. So you have a whole bunch of the subcommittee deleted an appropriately close relationship with the Department of Defense. And okay, so all of these things, especially the destruction of evidence, is a big problem. And this is what President Trump is stating. He's not making this up. They almost, according to Congressman Loudermilk and the Congressional Committee that nobody's talking about, but I think people will talk about, I think Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice, Kash Patel at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I have no knowledge, but I can speculate that they're probably looking at this and investigating it as we speak. Check this out again.
Wait. They deleted and destroyed all evidence that they found. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi was guilty. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops. You wouldn't have had a J6 because other people were guilty. The people that said that I attacked 2 Secret Service agents in a car. I grabbed one around the neck. I was then rebuffed, and I grabbed the other one. These are 2 of the toughest men anywhere on the planet. They happen to be slightly younger than me, maybe, just a little bit. Let me just tell you. They testified. They said it was total. And all of this stuff came out. People lied so badly. Now, listen, this was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that, it carries weight, though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden.
You would have lower court judges. What President Trump is doing is absolutely genius. Okay, hold on one second.
I'm going to give him a pardon if he wants to.
What President Trump is doing is absolutely genius. You have tariffs. The tariffs are bringing American jobs back, manufacturing back, renegotiating trade imbalances, so we don't have a $1 trillion trade deficit. Democrats have no answer to that. Zero rebuttal to that. Other than prices will go up, and prices went up 20% under Biden. And interest rates went up exponentially. The economy was the main reason why President Trump, thank God, won the popular vote. But the issue, ladies and gentlemen, the preemptive pardons could be as legitimate or genuine as a discarded Doritos wrapper. Okay? The preemptive pardons, there's a precedent. Like, for example, with Ford and Nixon, but Nixon had Watergate. Or Jimmy Carter and people who went to Canada to evade the draft, but they went to Canada to evade the draft. Or Iran-Contra under Reagan, but there was the issue of Iran-Contra. Fauci, Cheney, Schiff, Kinzinger, and others have never been implicated in any wrongdoing. And if you listen to the media, neither has Hunter or anyone around Biden. They don't have their own Iran-Contra. They don't have their own, Vietnam service evasion. They don't have a Watergate. Okay, they don't have a predicate to justify a preemptive pardon. Essentially, what Biden did is simply just pick somebody off the street and say, you're preemptively pardoned forever. Because according to the media, America's political establishment, Fauci did nothing but help this country. Then why was he preemptively pardoned? Oh, because of you think the liberal justices will side with that? They know that J.D. Vance is going to be president in 4 years. They know the Democrats won't be in power in the executive for at least 8 more to 12 more years. So you can't preemptively pardon somebody where there's not even a hint of wrongdoing. Schiff, Cheney, they were never accused of any wrongdoing by people who were sane and rational. Simply saying that Trump's going to go after them for an imaginary crime is not enough to preemptively pardon anyone. That's never happened before in American history. So the lower court judges would be the ones. Lower court judges are using all of their fuel, all of their political capital, fighting Trump on deportations. And that's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. The man is genius. Trump is an absolute genius. He's dismantling the power and authority of lower court judges to stop future indictments of people who did commit crimes. That's why they were preemptively pardoned without the equivalent of a Watergate.
Yeah. And maybe he should. Just remember, unselect committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it, and they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And they deny doing that.
If you do that in a civil case, you go to jail.
You know they deny doing that. And officials say that the order never came in for the National Guard.
They put out a statement.
On January 6th, let me ask you this about January 6th. I think
Benny
you're going to want to
Thompson
answer
wrote in a statement that he has destroyed all evidence.
Let me ask you this about January 6th.
I wish you could be you have such potential. If you could be just non-biased, you hurt yourself so badly. I'm telling you, they deleted and destroyed all the evidence. Everyone knows it. And you slough it off like it doesn't mean anything.
No, I'm just saying they deny it. That's all I'm saying.
Kristen, if I did it, you would be standing up in that chair shouting at me. And you know what I'd do? I'd say, you got me. They have done something so illegal. They have a committee sworn to, and because it was so bad, the only reason they did it is because the testimony turned out to be in favor of me, like Secret Service testified and disputed everything.
And according to Chairman Loudermilk, this report, you can download it from the congressional website, I believe. But President Trump is talking about Cassidy Hutchinson being Liz Cheney should be investigated. So Chairman Loudermilk and his committee found number 2, former Representative Liz Cheney should be investigated for potential criminal witness tampering based on new information about her communication. Cassidy Hutchinson's most outrageous claims lacked any evidence. The Select Committee had knowledge that her claims were false, and they publicly promoted her. President Trump did not attack a Secret Service detail. President Trump did not have intelligence indicating violence on the morning Cassidy Hutchinson falsely claimed to have drafted a handwritten note. Representative Cheney and Hutchinson baselessly attempted to disbar Hutchinson's former attorney. So they're doing everyone dirty. But now you got Dan Bongino, you got Kash Patel, you got Pam Bondi, and you have a weakened lower court D.C. federal judiciary. That is, don't you understand, ladies and gentlemen, if potentially, like the Honorable James Comey said, if the Department of Justice at this moment is looking at Chairman Loudermilk's committee report on all the crimes committed potentially by Cheney and others, Schiff and others, potentially, if Chairman Loudermilk's report is correct. The deportations go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has routinely sided with Trump. The preemptive pardon means nothing unless the Supreme Court states you can preemptively pardon somebody who was never accused formally of a crime. So, or was never accused. There was never the entire Cheney and Schiff have never been accused of a crime. Fauci was never accused of a crime. The rebuttal from Democrats would be, they were by Trump. It's like, well, but you don't listen to Trump and you don't listen to Trump Republicans, and you think anyone who disagrees with you is believing in conspiracy theories. So that's not the equivalent of Richard Nixon leaving after Watergate and then being pardoned by Ford. There is no precedent for this type of preemptive pardon. Okay, that's the key issue here, ladies and gentlemen. Then you have the federal courts that would likely side with Cheney and others, saying, "Well, Trump can't indict these people." The pardon would be looked at by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would side with Trump. You can't preemptively pardon. You have to have some accusation or some indictment or some criminal activity involved.
It made them into a bunch of liars, not Secret Service. It made the people. They got rid of it because it made Nancy Pelosi, the mayor of D.C., so many people look like criminals. And I will tell you, it's illegal for them to delete and to destroy that evidence.
Let me ask you about January 6th in a different.
So Liz Cheney acknowledged this on X. I don't have X. I don't have Twitter. I don't have X. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I have this channel, my other two channels, but obviously this is my main channel. While Donald Trump and Barry Loudermilk continue to spread malicious lies about the January, Trump is trying yet again to hide evidence and suppress the truth. But it was Cheney who was accused of deleting and destroying records. So this is the very vapid, sophomoric, insidious type of politics. Chairman Loudermilk accuses Cheney of destroying evidence. Then Cheney defends herself by saying Trump is destroying evidence. But Trump would be the last person who would want to destroy any evidence. Tucker Carlson, for example, actually showed the world evidence that was being hidden. And that's why you had people acquitted. But here, the Justice Department has obtained testimony and evidence from dozens of Trump's former advisors and Vice President Pence showing the danger Trump poses. That's a broad, open-ended statement. What does that even mean? The harm he poses, he won the popular vote. Now Trump is already doing what despots do. He's trying to conceal the truth and threatening to jail those who investigated him. He's not jailing people for the act of investigating him. He would potentially jail people for destroying records and then being preemptively pardoned without even a hint of any wrongdoing by the American political establishment. The American political establishment has never accused Liz Cheney of anything. So how on earth could she have gotten a preemptive pardon? That is not. There's no precedent for that. Like, for example, if you want to use Watergate with Richard Nixon and Ford, Richard Nixon was embroiled in what was obviously a break-in, an illegal act. Liz Cheney was defending democracy against the maniacal legions of Trump supporters, four of whom and one unarmed woman had her life taken, and 4 Trump supporters lost their lives that day. And I don't remember Cheney or Kinzinger or others saying anything about all the churches that were destroyed after the Dobbs decision, or the billions upon billions in property damage throughout the summer of Trump's last year in office. But here she says, the congressional report yesterday destroying Loudermilk's fraudulent allegations shows the despicable malice behind Trump's efforts. A.G. Garland now has a duty to release the Justice Department report and prevent its evidence from being destroyed. The evidence apparently was already destroyed, and then now she's alleging that Trump wants to destroy the evidence. The truth must prevail. The framers of our Constitution know the lessons of history. that people led by men without character can quickly lose their freedom. And it's like, nobody believes this, that Trump won the popular vote. You have Harriet Hageman, who absolutely annihilated her competition in Wyoming. So Cheney lost Wyoming by like one of the largest margins ever. Trump won the popular vote. There's now a congressional report, and here you have Pam Bondi alluding to a potential indictment. If you kind of, maybe not so much alluding to a potential indictment, but going after Schiff, and rightfully so, in this exchange.
2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election? Yes or no? Was there or was there not? I can tell you
what I saw when I went as an advocate to the campaign.
That's not my question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardon.
People were beating and assaulting and going after police officers all throughout Trump's last year in office. And I agree with why people peacefully demonstrated. Why don't Democrats care about that? You can only be injured if you were a police officer, God forbid, at the Capitol. But if you were injured throughout any demonstration where left-leaning protesters go after, injure, harm law enforcement officials, suddenly that's never brought up. Suddenly that's not an issue anymore. Is that how it works? So one day in U.S. history is focused like a laser upon by the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats in Congress. One day only. One day. That terrible day in January that I think is terrible, but do you think that one day in January was worse than any of the days in Portland, throughout the country, Minneapolis? You had CNN with a reporter in front of a burning building, saying fiery but mostly peaceful. You had billions upon billions in property damage throughout the country in Trump's last year in office, and I agree with why people peacefully demonstrated. But the performance art, there's people who are assaulting these law enforcement. Yes, that's terrible. Do you care also about any other of the many days and months that this took place while Democrats gave tacit approval? Do you care about what's going on with Tesla right now? Democrats giving tacit approval yet again to what's taking place with Tesla, championing a murderer, potential murderer who ended the life of a CEO, a married man with kids, all because they're so inept they can't pass any legislation. You don't want to delay and deny, then pass legislation. So it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Let's continue.
Are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
So
let me finish. On a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President? I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files.
And will you be able to review hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am asked to look at.
Of course you won't. So will you advise the president?
Can I answer the question?
Well, my question
I would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review hundreds of cases on the first day?
I'm not going to mislead this body, nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask another question.
You were censured by Congress, Senator, for comments just like this that are so reckless.
You were censured by Congress for comments like this that are so reckless. Okay. there was a potential leak associated with the Nunes memo years back. There were statements made by senators pertaining to evidence of Trump's alleged collusion or work with the Kremlin, which were lies and essentially fabricated lies and hoaxes. And so there was no evidence of Trump working with the Kremlin. And we can go on forever. This is very, and Pam Bondi has been on record pertaining to certain senators lying and committing crimes.
It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law.
So it's so hilarious. Cheney and Schiff have now spun it to, you better not destroy evidence after we destroyed evidence. Chairman Loudermilk stated in his report, number 6, this is just a summary. You can actually read the report. The January committee neglected or withheld evidence from its final report and deleted voluminous records it should have preserved. This is basically a public indictment of Cheney, Schiff, everyone there on that report. And now you have the basis for an indictment. You have a congressional report. You have a congressional report. I mean, you have the basis for an indictment now, but you have a congressional report. But the potential that the government documents were destroyed. You have witness tampering. You have a whole bunch of things. Then we're not even talking about the years of lies associated with Trump Russia, which was a completely fabricated hoax.
I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do
department.
you see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question?
Congressman Loudermilk had a report stating it was Cheney that destroyed evidence. And this is like everything they're accused of, they then repackage or remarket it. They market it as, oh, well, you're doing that.
Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened
why do you
now?
have difficulty?
I can't believe this is even.
Why do you have?
And that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. She is essentially saying, according to this report right here, or according to this testimony right here, that the DOJ could, possibly is, potentially one day in the future might, look at the destruction of evidence. This is why Democrats lost the popular vote. One of the reasons.
Give this committee and the American people that assurance.
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened
why do you
now?
have difficulty?
I can't believe this is even.
Why do you?
Are you frightened because evidence was already destroyed against President Trump? This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly what, this is public record. This congressional report is the basis. I mean, the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino already know this. Okay? They already know this. And there's not, you don't need much investigation. Okay? The indictments, the belief is that, well, you know, it's a preemptive pardon. Like, well, you can't really preemptively pardon anyone who has never formally been accused. Like, so Trump accusing, like Congressman Loudermilk accusing Cheney and Schiff is very different from the Watergate scandal or other preemptive pardons. Okay, so there's no precedent in U.S. history for this type of thing. And anyway, even if you want to cite precedent, it was never challenged in the Supreme Court. So, and I don't think the liberal justices will allow future Trump Republican presidents to just preemptively. So if they allow preemptive pardons for Biden, and Democrats and maybe the liberal justices on the Supreme Court feel that Trump is like the embodiment of evil, then they embolden him to preemptively pardon anyone that he wants. Is that really what Democrats want? I don't think so. So it's not gonna hold up in the Supreme Court. I'm like and in Supreme Court predictions. I pretty much tell you everything that's going to take place.
This committee and the American people that assurance.
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened now? I can't believe this is even...
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe you're asking such a question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why?
Congressman Loudermilk already stated that there was destruction of evidence. So did President Trump. I mean, it's unbelievable.
President Donald J. Trump, wouldn't you want to know that before you just declare they're all declassified? Wouldn't that be the...
So this is the Federal Bureau of Investigation Director. You just heard the Attorney General state categorically that there was evidence destroyed. And again, it's the preemptive pardon. In every precedent, there was an acknowledgement by Americans that somebody committed a crime. There hasn't been that acknowledgement among the good, decent, civilized people that Fauci or Schiff or anyone committed a crime, or Cheney. So why would you preemptively? Where's the precedent for a preemptive pardon?
Responsible thing for a president to do?
It was the responsible thing for us to do. That's why we declassified the Nunes memo.
And did Donald Trump declassify?
And no one died.
And did Donald Trump ever ask any of the agencies?
And he talked about the Nunes memo. That he just talked about that. That's huge.
Who produced those documents, whether declassifying them would put people's lives at risk. Did he ever do that to your knowledge, Prakash Patel?
I don't know that he didn't. Do you?
No, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? So let me just ask, Mr. Chairman, if you would, Mr. Patel has said he has no problem. He would support the release of his grand jury testimony in that case. I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, ranking member.
Schiff was defending Hillary Clinton's servers less than a decade ago, or around a decade ago. And Clinton's servers had top secret and special access program intelligence on them. Her first 3 months of emails, according to the Honorable James Comey, are nowhere to be found. And there were classified emails forwarded to Anthony Weiner's laptop. Forwarded.
Remember to join me in requesting, with Mr. Patel's approval, the release of those grand jury transcripts. And I would also ask Mr. Patel whether you support the release of Volume 2 as it pertains to you of the special counsel's report. Any reference to you in the report, to your truthfulness, will you support the release to this committee of those sections of Volume 2 of special counsel's report?
I support following the law and providing whatever information the law requires.
Well, you said to the Wall Street Journal that you support transparency. Here's your chance, Mr. Patel. You support release of that to this committee, yes or no?
Your time's up. Before I call on Senator Tillis, I have letters here from law enforcement groups representing 310,000 officers supporting Mr. Patel's nomination. And
so the preemptive pardons, I don't believe, if they get challenged by the Supreme Court, the rebuttal is, well, there's already been preemptive pardons. Well, I don't know if the Supreme Court The Supreme Court might have upheld. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know if they upheld any of them. I don't know if any of these of those preemptive pardons were challenged by the Supreme Court. I understand there's a Supreme Court case that upholds the logic behind a preemptive pardon, but I'm not sure if it pertains to a scenario where there isn't a Watergate or there isn't an Iran-Contra scandal. So none of the people preemptively pardoned have ever been indicted or even close to being indicted for anything yet. That's the difference here. And it'd be very interesting for the liberal justices who were so upset about presidential immunity. It would be very interesting to have them support Biden's preemptive pardons, giving President Trump the authority to preemptively pardon anyone. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think right now the lower courts are getting you-know-what handed to them by President Trump and the Supreme Court. The lower courts would protect anyone that Trump indicts, obviously. But if they've lost their political capital with deportations and every other battle with Trump, with Doge, they're losing left and right. You have judges stopping Doge and then the Supreme Court backing Doge. You have judges stopping deportations and the Supreme Court backing Trump. So, anyway. And then you would have the Department of Justice indicting individuals. And of course, Democrats would say, this is not about the rule of law. It's about vengeance. So they would change their tune in 2 seconds.
For mass pardons of deep state minions. And apparently Biden's team is listening. That comes after reports that Biden's White House is considering preemptive pardons for people who they think President-elect Trump could target. Names include Dr. Tony Fauci, Senator-elect Adam Schiff, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley. The Wall Street Journal editorial board argues this, quote, preemptive pardons for outgoing officials would be a bad precedent, a constitutional abuse, and the next lawfare escalation. It would establish a precedent that presidents on their way out the door will grant immunity to lists of loyal staff and officials. If Biden really wants to cool the political temperature, he could pardon Trump for 2 federal cases. This would be a political olive branch that might stop the reprisal.
So the Wall Street Journal acknowledged that there's never really been a precedent for that at all. And it would be an abuse of presidential powers. But if Biden wanted to pardon Trump, for what? Trump hasn't done anything. He didn't do anything. The weight of the corruption pertaining to Jack Smith's special counsel, the special counsel that they couldn't find anything with Trump for years, then they started a special counsel. So none of the things that Trump was accused of, he was ever convicted of. And then in New York, it's blatantly unconstitutional. The Supreme Court will yet again side with Trump. And I've talked about that a lot because the Federal Election Commission is a federal agency. It's not a state agency. And the DOJ dropped the hush money case. The FEC dropped the hush money case. Any indictment or prosecution would have to emanate from the federal government, not from a state obviously run or influenced by Democrats. It's like Tammany Hall going after Trump. But let's continue.
Ratchet. Phil, broad pardons to people who haven't been charged with any crimes. That would, in the future, anybody who went to work in an administration, particularly a Democrat one, would just think that they could get away with, well, maybe murder while they were working there, and then they would be pardoned for what they might have been caught doing.
Well, yeah, certainly that type of pardon is not what the founders surely envisioned when they gave the chief executive of the United States, such broad and plenary pardon power. I'm sure this kind of thing never crossed their mind, or maybe they would have made it a little less broad. But nevertheless, let's just take, for example, Tony Fauci, right? All those people that you mentioned, including him, have denied that they have done anything wrong. They've denied any federal criminal activity whatsoever.
And that's why it wouldn't hold up in the Supreme Court. There is no Iran-Contra. There is no Watergate. Why were they even pardoned? These people are acknowledged as the most respected, the most intelligent, educated, honorable citizens in the United States of America. Why would you preemptively pardon such people? Oh, well, Trump might go after them, but there's no precedent for that. There's no precedent. Ford didn't pardon Nixon because somebody might conjure up a phony scandal. Nixon left because of a break-in that he helped cover up that was very likely linked to Central Intelligence, according to a lot of people. Books have been written in the 70s and 80s and 90s about this. I mean, you know what? The best political investigative journalism was written in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The best political journalism, investigative journalism. But there's no evidence of that, and there's no evidence that good people, good civil people, know that Fauci did anything wrong. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that Adam Schiff did anything wrong? Adam Schiff never. There's not a shred of evidence to support any suggestion, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm saying this categorically. There's no evidence that Adam Schiff did anything illegal. There's no evidence that Cheney did anything illegal. Do we know of any? No. There's no evidence Fauci. So then why were they preemptively pardoned? How is that going to hold up in court? You could say, well, Congressman Loudermilk and Trump and others, like, well, the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, Jimmy Kimmel, Liz Cheney herself, all of these good people, they just laugh it off. So why would you preemptively pardon because of some maniacal, Trump Republicans might conjure up an indictment based on nothing? What are you afraid of? That's what they always said with Trump. So there's no evidence, there's no precedent for Biden's preemptive pardon. There was no Watergate, there was no Iran-Contra. So why did he pardon these people?
If Joe Biden were to go so far as to preemptively pardon an Anthony Fauci, for example, history will forever judge him as being someone who needed a pardon. In other words, he had done some particular federal crime for which he needed a pardon. He's vehemently denied that, but others have said, look, he could be indicted for maybe lying to Congress. People say that maybe he committed some type of mass fraud by lying to the American people about masks, vaccines, social distancing, school closing, and the whole thing like that. So history will forever judge Anthony Fauci and the others as people who needed a pardon because they had committed a federal crime. And that's not what these people want.
Senator Rand Paul last year did make an official criminal referral about Tony Fauci's testimony to Congress. Just noting that. Phil Holloway, thank you so much. Good to see you.
But the issue also is that these pardons are 10 years. So I do believe that, like Hunter and Fauci, I think the January committee also, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but these were pardons for 10 years prior to Biden leaving office. Does that make sense to you? Does that make any sense to you? The people who are so worried about American democracy, who don't even know what a functioning primary is. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They did worse. They did Biden a lot dirtier than Bernie. Biden won his primary. Okay, he preemptively pardoned everyone around him for a reason. But he won his primary. Why did he get forced out? I love how Democrats now say he really should have left, 3 weeks into it. Why did he need to leave 3 weeks? He was the most popular candidate of all time. Oh, are you saying that Trump was right? That there's no way that Trump could have lost to this type of individual who less than 4 years later you're so mortified of you have to kick out? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Let's continue.
President Biden, this just came across, just issues new pardons for Dr. Anthony Fauci. You could call these preemptive pardons. Dr. Anthony Fauci, retired 4-star General Mark Milley. This just happened moments ago. It also includes the members of Congress and staff who served.
Stephen, thank you so very much. The Browns, thank you. Thank you, everybody. To my super chat, thank you. And yes, we did this to ourselves. And Stephen, it's interesting. In the Browns, thank you so much. The rebuttal from Jon Stewart and others is, we set up Bretton Woods and we set up the global trade system. Yes, and you don't like what Trump is doing? Why? Well, we set up this system and we're so rich. Yeah, but there are millions of Americans still in poverty. There are millions of Americans that Democrats care so much about. Don't you want these people to start working in manufacturing plants, in businesses that are brought back to this country, where we can make things and build things, where you don't have to outsource all of our jobs overseas, whether it's an automaker or textiles or whatever? You wouldn't pay $1 or $2 more for a shirt from Walmart? God forbid! God forbid! You can't pay $2 or $3 more for a shirt. You might not even be that. Then they're saying like, oh my God, an iPhone will cost more than a Lamborghini. No! It's like, no, it won't. It won't. Especially when you take into prices went up 20% under Biden. No one said anything. Interest rates mortgage rates over doubled. And no one said anything. And more than doubled. And now Trump is doing exactly what Bernie Sanders and President Obama and every other Democrat that ran in the 90s and early 2000s and 2015 said. Outsourcing of jobs. We need to prevent that, stop that, address that, and they did nothing. And Trump is doing something about it. You can't spend a little bit more at Walmart, and maybe, God forbid, Walmart can't buy, American-made products more than or just as much or whatever. Change the business model a little. Amazon, Walmart. So, I mean, it's not going to hurt the U.S. economy. They say, oh, my God, it's going to be terrible. And look, there was a pause. You'll hear that in a second. But let's just continue with this.
Served on the Select Committee and the U.S. Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who testified before the Select Committee. This as Trump prepares to take the oath of office in just a few hours.
Dean Diefendorf, thank you so much, Dean. Greatly appreciated. In South Florida, thank you so very much, Dean. Greatly, and thank you, as always, for watching, for the kind words. Thank you, Dean.
Would that include Liz Cheney?
So what a mess. No, it doesn't. I guess, yeah, Select Committee.
The whole select.
But what does it say? Mark Milley, who is chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under both Biden and Trump, that 100%. What he's done in the past, that he was calling China, trying to putting down President Trump.
I mean, what are they afraid that Pete Hegseth is going to see when he goes to the Defense Department and look?
So let's go really quickly. This is awesome. That's not so awesome, but this is awesome. Oh, hold on one second.
Racing champions, he received the car?
Yep. This is the car? Yep. Ryan from last year, he had 23, so pretty amazing job he's done.
Pretty amazing.
Well, this is the team behind him here.
Fantastic.
Great. Mr. President, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We had to do it. Somebody had to do it, right? Well, thank you very much, everybody. We have a very special day for a lot of reasons, actually, if you really think about it. But this is a day because Roger Penske's a great friend of mine. I've known him a long time. He received a few years ago the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest award in the country outside of the Congressional Medal of Honor. It's sort of the civilian version of the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I watched him win his 18th Indianapolis 500. And now I just said, did you win 19? He said, well, actually, we won 20. He won 2 more since then. So that was like 5 years ago, and he won 2 more since then. And just well-deserving. If you look, Germany, Japan, the countries, they spend billions of dollars trying to win Indy. And I guess they do it sometimes, but not much. But he's done it 20 times, so he must know something about cars and racing, and trucks, too, by the way. He knows a lot about trucks. But he's been a very special guy, and he's brought some of our outstanding racing champions with a guy, but he was a driver. I don't know, quite they're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well, and they don't know quite how to do it. Not only with China, but tolerance is a big factor in life. And so just wanted to welcome them to the White House, a special place, very, very special place. And we love champions, and these are the greatest champions in the world. These are the greatest champions in racing, and it's an honor to have you all. And thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much. I wouldn't ride in that thing if you paid me. How fast will that go?
240 plus.
240.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Weapon.
2-time winner of the Indianapolis 500 consecutively, right?
Yes, sir.
So what the hell are you doing? What do you eat?
Drink a lot of milk. Hopefully,
okay, I'm going to take some. And that one is pure speed and endurance, right?
Correct, sir.
Speed and endurance. Is that car a very different car than, let's say, this one? Very different?
Very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Made for...
You gotta last so many hours.
Right.
And we all share the car, so three drivers.
Totally different engine. Everything's different.
Everything.
And you'll go, is it 24 hours?
Yeah.
That's a long time. And that car just, there's no let up, it's just constant, right? That's right. Congratulations. That's endurance. Endurance is a big factor in life and success, I can tell you. So you guys have it. Well, thank you very much. Would you like to ask Roger or any of these champions any questions while we're here? Yeah.
You started the morning saying be cool, and just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents. They wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also. But somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right. And now I've reversed it. It's for a short period of time, but we made $2 billion. We're making now $2 billion a day. And somebody had to do it. Roger actually said it. Charles Schwab was here a little while ago, one of the great financial people, and he said he's been waiting for 40 years for somebody to do what I did over the last month. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have a country. It wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm honored to have done it. And, look, nothing's over yet, but we have a tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. It's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well, and they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal. And we have many other countries, as you know, many more than 75, and they all want to come. And they want to come here, or they'll go to Commerce, or they'll go to Treasury. We have our great senators here and congressmen. They'll call John, they'll do somebody, they'll go through somebody, but they're all calling, how do we do this? They all want to make a deal. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, because I told them, if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out amazing. I think that our country is going to be at the end of a year or shorter, but I think we're going to have something that nobody would have dreamt possible.
So this is a great man, a great leader, a great American, and one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. Really quickly, Bill Maher, great comedian, legendary comedian. I mean, he doesn't like Trump, but I watch Bill Maher. He is dreadfully wrong about President Trump. He was speaking to Chris Cuomo. Bill Maher has his own channel. Subscribe to it. Bill Maher is dreadfully wrong about President Trump for a number of reasons. Number one, people vote for Trump because they want to end perpetual wars. That's number one. That was the messaging that Bill Maher thinks is irrelevant to Trump supporters. Trump has a distinct message, different from traditional Republicans and rabid, apoplectic, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated Democrats. He wants to end perpetual wars. He wants to enforce immigration laws. He wants to bring manufacturing jobs back to the country. He wants to promote energy independence. And that's four major differences between Democrats and never Trump Republicans and President Trump. Okay? Foreign policy being the main factor that distinguishes President Trump from Democrats. Democrats stand for nothing. What's their energy policy? Protecting the environment while at the same time flooding the country full of strategic petroleum reserves? What is their immigration policy? Giving debit cards and flying undocumented into the country and ignoring crime, ignoring inflation, ignoring rent and home prices going up, or perhaps jobs being taken? And God bless the good men and women, undocumented, documented, good, beautiful, hardworking families from all across the world. Venezuela, God bless all the people from Venezuela and El Salvador and Mexico and the Middle East, who come undocumented or documented. But Trump wants legal immigration. He has nothing against immigration or immigrants. The Democrats routinely distort and overtly lie about President Trump. They have zero clue. Like Bill Maher has zero clue why anyone would vote for Trump, because the things that he thinks are normal, most Americans don't think. It's crime, homelessness, a rampant disregard for immigration laws, endless military conflict. People don't want that. That is the message Trump won on. Stop endless wars, enforce immigration laws, build the economy, and do things that Bernie Sanders and President Obama were too cowardly to do. Bring American jobs back. So every demographic group, every person of every skin color, every religion, every ethnicity benefits, especially the lower income communities in this country. Why not have, in poor areas of the country, manufacturing plants? Okay, I'm from Southern California. There used to be a number of industrial plants and manufacturing. They all left. And when they left, the communities, broke down. And that's throughout the country, especially in the Midwest. So Trump stands for something. Democrats stand politically for nothing except they worship their own emotions. They want to feel morally superior at the expense of actually being morally inferior. They champion people like that young person who took the life of the CEO a health insurance CEO. I mean, that is the most despicable, nefarious, insidious thing. And of course, Democrats champion it. And I thought that the ACA was the be-all, end-all of health of laws. So there goes that. But President Trump is a great American, a great president. And I mean, you look at President Trump and it's like, he stands for something. Bill Maher does not understand why Trump is so admired. He doesn't understand why Trump won the popular vote because he doesn't understand what Trump's message was. Bill Maher should know that Trump's message was to stop endless wars. That was his message in 2016. That's his message now. To enforce immigration laws. That was his message in 2016. That's Trump's message now. To become energy independent. His message before, his message now. And also, especially to bring back manufacturing. And if tariffs need to happen, then they need to happen. There was a 20% increase in prices under Biden. Okay. In addition to not worshiping multilateral organizations that say, hey, you should shut down your economy. Okay. And then Fauci's preemptively pardoned. These are distinct messages, political objectives. And I don't know why Bill Maher doesn't ever acknowledge all the great, amazing things that Trump does. I just don't get it. He's a brilliant comedian, very astute in terms of politics, but he doesn't, he was with Chris Cuomo. Oh, they don't care about messaging. Trump's message is so clear, so direct, so easy to understand and comprehend. He delivers on it. That's why he won. And the Democrats, it's like an atheistic political religion. So it's like they disown friends and family. They don't even go to Thanksgiving. It's like, you don't see me telling you not to watch De Niro films. I might go watch Goodfellas right now. I might go watch The View if you want to suffer. I don't care. What do I care? But Democrats are keying Teslas, and they're doing so like they think they're like running in chariots of fire. Dun, 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 dun. Like, oh, I'm helping humanity. Like, no, you're not. You're committing a felony because there's a whole bunch of other laws tacked onto it now. Anyway, hit subscribe if you're new. We'll spend a couple more minutes.
A man like Roger Penske, I don't want to get him in trouble with China, so I won't. But he would know that someday you have to cut the bow and you have to do what you have to do, right, Roger?
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000?
That's what I did, and I'm very happy to have done it.
Mr. President, was there anyone the Prime Minister of Greece just told Breitbart's Matt Boyle that he thinks absolutely the European Union and the United States could work out a trade deal that's win-win and, quote, mutually beneficial to both sides. What do you think about the Prime Minister's comments, and do you think a deal could be struck with the European Union?
First of all, I know him. He's a good man, and I appreciate his comments. Yeah, a deal could be made with every one of them. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them, and they'll be fair.
The EU doesn't buy American poultry, chicken because of or beef because of the manner in which the United States allows the beef to be processed and the chicken to be processed with certain type of just this certain manner that. And so on one hand, I kind of understand, okay, the EU perhaps has stronger standards than we do. On the other hand, the fact that President Trump is taking them to task is a good thing. I understand where the European Union is coming from. At the same time, you still have to go to bat. You can't simply concede. Let's just say the EU is right on that point, okay? Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe there's just nothing wrong with, nothing wrong with an American hamburger or a steak or nothing wrong with it, but the EU says, no, we can't have it. But Trump is taking them to task. He's going to bat. He fights. You think Bernie Sanders would do that? Bernie Sanders didn't even say anything when he was cheated in his own primary. He didn't even defend the journalists that published the actual writing from the beautiful little fingers of Democrats themselves actively cheating him. You think he said, oh, thank you, journalist, for oh, what's that? They're trying to ruin your life just like they went after Trump. Oh, nothing. You think Biden? Poor Biden. He's like, I'm not leaving, man. Oh, what? Oh, no. And he waited 3 weeks. Yeah, good for him. What do you think? You're just going to take Biden's presidency away? He's not going to fight a little bit? What do you think? At least Biden fought it. The best thing he ever did was not relinquish his presidency within 3 weeks. That's that's another reason why they tanked. Because it was so outlandish. Why would you ask him to step down when he already won his primary? You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that's okay. But again, the Democratic Party is now basically an atheistic political religion. Let's continue.
Fair deals. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody. But they weren't fair to the United States. They were sucking us dry, and you can't do that. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. We don't have a debt for fun. They have it for a reason. And people took advantage of our country, and this term I did it, and did it well. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China and others, and I started the process, but then we had to fix up from the COVID mess caused by China. We had to fix up from that, and we did a good job of doing it.
That's another thing Democrats lied about. They created the whole Trump-Russia conspiracy theory and McCarthy-era nonsense, and then they wouldn't tell the truth about how what started. Of course, we all knew even then. We all knew that Biden had issues upstairs. They live in their own realm of moral superiority that is located within a sea of ignorance and deceit. They're deceiving themselves. You don't think Democrats realize Biden was one fry short of a Happy Meal? Of course they did. You don't think most Democrats knew it? Yeah, probably from exactly the location Trump was saying. The whole thing that shut down the U.S. economy. By the way, you think a lot of Democrats were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't shut down the whole entire U.S. economy. How many spoke out? Because it's a cult. You speak out, it's like, oh my God. Then they want their own Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan is an individual that doesn't fit perfectly within a political paradigm. If you deviate from the Democratic Party's paradigm, you're excommunicated. Just like you are shunned, stunned. You are shunned. You are banished. You're excommunicated. You've committed blasphemy and heresy. It's an atheistic political religion that doesn't allow individuality. You have to think the same way, or they won't go to Thanksgiving. And they'll disown you, and they'll stop talking to you, and you'll be, kicked out of social media groups, and they'll retaliate. They might key your car. Who knows what they'll do? So that's another thing that Bill Maher doesn't acknowledge, and we can go on forever. By the way, thank you, Mountain Goddess. Thank you. Greatly appreciate everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back tonight around 10. So be here at about 10 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. This is huge. This is something that needs to be talked about. And I think that Trump's going to start indicting a lot of people in the near future. Hit subscribe. Thank you.